Yo, what's going on, people? Nabil here for Fight Talk TV. Today we're sitting down with Lucas Roehrig, one of the most exciting new names in British boxing and rising UK boxing talent. He's a former basketball player turned undefeated cruiserweight, trained by none other than legendary world champion George Groves. 5 wins, real power, and he's already sparring world champions. He's moving fast, he's got serious ambition, and trust me, this guy is not here to play around. So today we are going to hear his story, mindset, and what's next in the ring. So let's get into it. So Lucas, what first drew you to boxing? How did the journey begin?
The first drew me to boxing is I live right next to a gym, All Stars Boxing Gym. I know you're very familiar with it yourself. I remember first going there, seeing you train, and just fell in love with the camaraderie, you know, the community you get from boxing, and you know the rewards, and not even materialistic, but more so, you know, the mental reward you get from winning, getting better, and progressing in the sport.
Growing up, who were your biggest inspiration in the sport, inside and outside the ring?
Inside the ring, I would say, you know, the people who really threw the flag for British boxing: George Groves, James DeGale, Anthony Joshua. You know, those type of notable fighters. But then also in the community, we had guys like Ashley Theophane,
Yep.
you know, who would, you know, it was something we could see visually, see them training in the gym, and they were just great people to have around, especially as a young man, to see that, you know, you can get to a level where you're winning British titles, fighting for world titles. So Ashley Theophane was definitely a big inspiration to me.
What does boxing mean to you on a personal level?
On a personal level, it means everything. It's been the majority of my life. It becomes your identity in a way, and now it's how I make a living. So boxing has been, you know, every facet of my life has been part of myself and my identity.
You you started off playing basketball. What made you switch to the ring?
What made me switch to the ring, I would just say, realizing that I have a bigger and better future in boxing.
Can you walk us through a typical day in your training camp?
A typical day in my training camp would be I would get to the gym around 9:30, 10. We always start off the day with our boxing session, just because when you're mentally fresh, you're physically fresh, it's better to get the technical side of your training done first. And then usually I'll go back home after an hour and a half, 2 hour session of boxing, depending if it's a sparring day or not. I'll go back home, refuel, then a couple of hours, either go to the gym for strength conditioning session, sprint session, or a long run.
What one area of your game you're currently focused on improving?
I would say just kind of slowing things down, going from the amateurs to the pros. There's certain things that you know, you really need to focus on. Like in the amateurs, it's 3 rounds. You want to throw a million punches. You think activity. That's what's going to win you the fight. But as at the pro, you really need to think about not wasting any shots, and really picking everything. So right now we're just, even though 5 fights in, we're still adjusting slowly and making improvements every day.
How has working with George Groves impacted your development as a fighter?
Massively, positively improved every aspect of my game, and you know, just being able to learn from him every day is a blessing, and improving every day.
How did you first meet George Groves? How did the link up happen, and what made him your coach and manager?
It was exactly like one of these days here, just Sunday morning training session at Dell. He usually comes in, does pads, takes us for the run, and you know, that is how I met him. He's coaching at the Dell, alongside Nick Delaney, and yeah.
How do you mentally prepare for a fight, especially in the final hours, before stepping into the ring?
You know, just kind of switch off my phone, visualize, and just try to stay in a calm mentality, reserve as much energy as you can, and then I don't like to be rushed, so I like to get to the change room early, lay out all my stuff, make sure everything's organized, and then slowly, bit by bit, you know, the intensity increases, start warming up, start stretching, start, you know, getting everything ready, and then you just slowly switch into that fight mindset.
Are there specific rituals or routine you would follow before a match?
Nah, I wouldn't say I have no specific rituals or anything. I would say it's pretty straight on, pretty boring each time. I think some fighters are different where they might like a lot of people around them, might like to talk, socialize, but for me it's just pretty much a normal day and just focus on the job.
Do you study your opponents in depth or focus more on your own game plan?
I would say going off my last 5 fights, I would say I focus more on what I'm doing. Of course, when there have been opponents where they're southpaw or, you know, big stylistic things that flare out, then during camp and during training, George would, you know, rep me on them. But other than that, don't really watch too much film on my last 5 previous opponents. I leave that more to George, and then he comes back and we work on what we need to work on in training.
You're still early in your career. What short-term and long-term goals do you have for yourself?
Slowly going down, climbing the rankings, looking for English titles, and then slowly climbing to British title, and then, you know, ticking off those boxes, ticking off those titles, and then just continue building.
When you was an amateur, how many fights did you have and what did you achieve in your amateur career?
Say that again, sorry?
When you was an amateur, how many fights did you have and what have you achieved in your amateur career?
I had 51 fights, amateur fights, won Tri-Nations, won Nationals, won London ABA multiple times, won multiple box cups with Del Youth, King of the Ring, yeah, numerous box cups, and yeah, it was a pleasure to be an amateur with Del Youth. Great club, great community. You see, right now the amateurs are training hard, getting ready for the new season. So it's great to still be coming here and training alongside them and inspiring the youth.
What has been your proudest moment in boxing so far?
Proudest moment? I would say just being able to go pro with George, and probably my first professional fight, because that's when the journey started, and then that's when everything gets real. So I would say my debut, and yeah, my proudest moment.
Are there any fighters you're eager to face next year or two? There's a fighter that's like really top in the ranking. His name is Vidal Riley. Is that a fighter that you're interested in fighting?
Yeah, of course. Vidal is, I think, was he number 2 or number 3?
I think he's British champion, right?
He's British champion.
Yeah.
So I think he's behind Chris Billum.
What's your opinions about him as a fighter?
I think he's a great fighter. I think he's a very stylistically and technically good boxer. That would definitely be a great fight in the future. And but I would say I have a lot more building to do to get to the, you know, level, not just in the rankings, but, you know, publicly known. Need to get, you know, my name out there a bit more, and that would just come with me winning, me progressing, having more fights, and progressing my record.
Tell me about your sparring experience with Jay Opata. How was it like sparring him?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Said it multiple times. Great champion. It was invaluable experience. And yeah, it's a very exciting fight. Him against Gerardo Ramirez for the undisputed titles. That's going to be an amazing fight.
How do you unwind and recharge when you're not fighting, training or fighting? So what do you do outside of boxing? Like hobbies, apart from basketball? Like what are you interested in?
Be with family, be with friends, go away any chance I can get. And yeah, there's like now I took a 3-week break. And then when you take that little respite, you're really eager and very, you feel refreshed to come back. So right now I'm eager to get back in the ring, get back into full training, and yeah, just hang out with family and friends.
So you're a top amateur and a top pro in boxing. Do you feel a responsibility to be a role model to younger fans and or aspiring boxers?
Yeah, 100%. I think any athlete or any sportsman has that responsibility to be a good role model for the youth, especially those that look up to you and are trying to emulate what you have done and trying to get to where you're at. So I'd like to say I carry myself well outside the ring, treat everyone with respect, give everyone the time of day, and give any advice that I can give to the youth where I can.
What advice would you give to someone just starting out boxing?
The advice I'll give to someone who just started out boxing is just stay consistent, enjoy everything, especially as an amateur. Just realize that that's your apprenticeship, that's your time to make your mistakes, you know, to learn, to grow. So just take everything, the good and the bad, and just try work as hard as you can and constantly grow and improve.
What dream venue would you like to fight in and why?
What venue?
Yeah, dream venue.
What venue? I would probably say MGM in Vegas.
What would your dream fight would be from any era and why?
My dream fight
from any era, any
fighter. Me fighting the fighter?
Yeah, any fighter that you would love to fight.
I'd probably say Evander Holyfield.
Yeah. Where can we follow you in your journey? So like, do you have Instagram, social media, anything you want to shout out?
Follow me on Instagram, Lucas Roehrig 1. And yeah, follow me on Twitter, same tag. Yeah.
Big respect to Lucas Roehrig for coming through, undefeated, focused, and hungry for more. If you didn't know his name before, now you do. Make sure you're following the journey because this man's coming to the top. Like and comment, subscribe. This is FightTalkTV and Nibil Weekend, and we'll catch you in the next one.